This is the Getto Free Press. I'm George Boston Ryans. I'm in Valdosta, Georgia. These are the candidates running for public office in the state of Georgia. We at Big Nick Restaurant. I was called by Willie Rayford, former city councilman here, a few days ago, and I'm here because I want you to listen to some of the candidates to hear their platform. Thank you very much.
If you're going to do all of it, if you're going to cut taxes in your state, then fine. Support someone who's going to increase the education budget so that it can filter down back to your state. So that it's paying for the schools instead of schools having a Game of Thrones over funding. And that's what happens today. Because again, we're not talking tax cut, they're gonna take it from somewhere else. And just switch up. And it happens over years so that you don't notice it. So let's stop supporting tax cuts because they're gonna cut your services on top of it. And the main target has always been public education. Republicans have never liked public education because it educates the population. They'd rather have you less smart so they can manipulate you. That's the whole point. So if we're going to cut taxes for the sake of keeping people's money in their pockets, expect some services to be cut as well.
Thank you. Getto, I'm glad that you running this office stop. You never seen we vote for everything Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And we bow down to Donald Trump. So you got my support. What about you? Here.
So, as a congressman, I'm wanting to know, with a specific focus on rural Georgia, what are your plans for advancing small businesses, especially Black and minority-owned business, in light of a lot of DEI programs and incentives that were earmarked for that specific target group? And also, what is your plan to address the maternal mortality and infant mortality crisis here in Georgia? Because we know the statistics and they're not good. So I'm just wondering.
So the rural plan. So basically, what's happening in rural Georgia is really a result of tariffs, right? And also is a result of funding being robbed to pay for tax cuts again. See, we're always going back to tax cuts. And so as we're keep on cutting taxes, then we are going to rob funding from things like rural, you said rural small business, right? So for me, this is about propping up the SBA, and also if you're creating a train system, then you're also helping those businesses because you're basically dispersing the population from your big centers out. Because then people will be more inclined to say, you know what, I can live for less in a smaller town and get it works in Atlanta. But see, we also going to have to get rid of the big beautiful bill as well because it cut a lot of those services from those areas. And the DEI part is a function of Republicans and Donald Trump. So once he's gone, all of this stuff returns. Yeah, it returns. So basically, it's almost kind of, we have to repeal all the crap that he did. That's what we're going to have to do. We have to repeal and do all of the crap that he did. So, yeah, we have to start over basically, and that means that the 120th Congress is going to be so important for our nation's future because we are at 250 years this year. Let's look at our history and what have we created? Question. And so, part of it is that we're going to have to reverse course and start valuing all of the talents of all of our people in the United States. And that means that we're going to have to teach differently. That means we're going to have to do things a bit differently than we do now. Maternal rates. So I'm a big person and big advocate of health. And I think a lot of that is really health driven because a lot of the people that are having children are not necessarily healthy starting out. So that's kind of what drives up the maternal rate. So I kind of want to do what Michelle Obama did, is go back to the schools, talk about nutrition, and teach children about better nutrition. And remember, she took all of that stuff out of the schools. Kids learned how to eat better, and they stuck to it. And I think that's why we have a lot of children that don't want to drink sodas. You have a couple of young adults that don't eat bad because of what Michelle Obama did. And I think if we, and you know, I understand what Robert F. Lee he's trying to do, but he's not going about it the right way. He doesn't understand or know what the hell he's talking about. But I want to go back to what Michelle Obama was doing and put that program back in place, because we have to teach our children better nutrition. It starts from there. And if we continue on where we are, because a lot of the companies that we eat food from make us sick. And they do this so they can change their healthcare system and make more money off of it. So, but that also comes with consequences, health consequences. It comes with not being able to survive paternity, or having a child. It's also black. It's also white folks too. So everybody's suffering from the same issue. But you gotta get the health part. You have to start teaching children that. We also have to start. I personally don't like companies that create garbage for humans, for people, like your Kellogg's or your McDonald's. Those things are terrible for people's bodies. And it's just, we have to understand nutrition. But we also have to fund programs that, again, when you're cutting taxes, you're also defunding those programs that help those issues. And so that means that we're going to have to stop cutting taxes so that we can continue to fund those programs that are important to the population.
Thank you.
I heard you mention, I heard you mention Austin Scott. Scott, a lot of agriculture money.
Yes.
Okay. So, just that you said he doesn't show up next month. Okay. What are you going to tell the agriculture community for them to give you money? You gotta understand, a lot of the farming industry lost money.
Yes, it did.
So you gotta bring that up.
Yes, it did.
They have lost money. All the money that was going to China, they lost it all. And it's not coming back.
Now
So you gotta remind them,
Yeah.
this man signed that bill.
took your customers away.
Exactly. And all the farming industries are going out of business. And corporations are buying money. You got it.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna tell the agriculture community to pay you and not him?
Well, see, here's the thing. See, I think at this point they're kind of seeing the proof of, or the results of them voting for Donald Trump and Republicans. Because they have to understand that, look, I'm
It's
here.
not, but here's the thing. You're going to vote Republican all the way. No, it doesn't matter. But that's what you have.
But see, this is what we have to do.
You have to get the agricultural community to get them to get behind you.
Yes. But we have to, but we have to be realistic. We have to be realistic and say, look, Republicans have cost you your customer. And they have proof in the pudding right there. So my thing is that if I'm not understanding that the person that I voted for brought me here, I'm not sure what I can tell them. So, but again, I have to offset those people I have to offset those farmers with other people to get them to support me. Because this is a big issue. It's a very big issue.
Yes, but I have to.
Yeah,
what other countries sell them, what countries are trying to sell.
Of course, but we have to also ensure that we create new relationships. And that means without a tyrant. So if we don't have a tyrant sitting in our White House, we wouldn't have to worry about it as much. That's the problem. See, and I am all for impeachment. Because this guy is ruining all of our relationships around here. Yes, exactly. But that's why I'm running against Austin Scott, so we can get rid of him as well. The morale in the Republican Party is low. Extremely low. Because people have lost things. People have lost their livelihoods, some people have lost their lives, and there are a lot of people who have lost their money. So are you really going to continue to support the party that cost you your livelihood and your money, and now you're killing Americans with ICE? Does that make sense? Now, if you want to, it's then I mean, exactly. But we have to make it plain to them, and I think that's what we have not been doing. And so I'm like, look, these are your options, because under Biden, y'all had customers. Under Trump, you lost all your customers. So you either want to continue on with no customers, or you want to have people who can bring those customers back. That's the question that they have to answer themselves. That's it.
That's it. So, you're obviously are behind lowering tariffs, so that way our community can.
Dude, tariffs are always a terrible idea.
Oh, they've always been. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
But they cheered for them because they didn't know what they were. Now they figured out what they were, and now we're in a situation where you don't have customers anymore. And so if you're going to continue on supporting the person that got rid of all your customers, that don't seem like a very smart idea, does it?
He got more than twice.
Yeah, well,
Let's move on.
I want to get, and now
Let's move on.
there are two other candidates.
Right.
But once we get him rolling, we can get this conversation rolling, but we got to get other people in the chance to talk.
Thank you.
But we all understand how important it is to make sure we change what Congress, right? Now, we also got to make sure that rooms like this are packed when we bring candidates down here. So when Doc come down here again, let's make sure the room is triple the size as far as make sure the whole building is filled up. Because that's the only way we're going to really change and get Rick or whatever his name out of that seat. He should have been out of that seat a long time. All right. With that being said, the next person I'm bringing forward is Richard Wright. He is running for lieutenant governor. Can you give him a hand? Come on.
Good morning, everyone. Let me say this again. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Richard Wright, and I am running for Lieutenant Governor of Georgia. And before I go into telling everyone about my wonderful self, I want everyone to repeat after me. Say, I am important. My views matter. Everyone in this room is important. And if no one's told you that you're important today, let me be the first person to tell you that. It's critical that we have motivated Democrats, not only in Atlanta, but in South Georgia as well. So just a little bit about me. I moved to Georgia in 1997, and I moved with my G.B. from North Carolina. I moved down here to be a rapper. But no one signed me. No one signed me. Jermaine, Rico, the R&B Rico, so if you can tell my voice, I'm still a little bit mad about that. So I was working at the airport, Hartsfield, Concourse D, Burger King, for $6.25 an hour. Still remember it. And I'll tell you a little story, because we got family now. We're all family. When I was working at the airport, I got fired. The airport, like for Burger King, right? They give you a food card where you can charge up, I think like $9 for the food on the card. So what did I do? Did I do the responsible thing? No, I didn't. I went back for a whole month with this card in charge of food. I did it. As you see, the doctor here, he's a polished person of what a politician is. I'm an unpolished person. And in my youth. And so that's how I believe I'm able to connect with people, is because I struggled. And so I was just talking with my mom, and my mom was a straight shooter. She was a real straight shooter. She said, you need to go to college. I said, well, I dropped out of high school. Well, I'm not really college material. And so then she reiterated that you need to go to college. Right? So I took a gamble. I went to a small school called Herzing College. Small school. It was blessed, to be honest with you. It wasn't me, and I'm a Christian. I like to beat people on top of the head, but I got blessed to be able to go to school and get my undergraduate degree. And I got blessed again to be able to go to get my MBA. And I got blessed again to pass the CPA exam. And I got blessed again for a fourth time to be able to attend Georgetown Law. So it was when you're doing it, you don't understand kind of what you're doing because you just pass the exams and you kind of matriculate through life as a young individual. kind of struggling and hitting your head up against the wall. I grew up in a single parent home. I didn't have my dad, so some of the lessons that went on in life, I had to learn the hard way, right? But still got blessed and was able to end up at Georgetown. And so the question is that why am I running? What's my platform as your next lieutenant governor? And the platform is affordability, civility, and visionary leadership. And I go in the reverse chronological order. With visionary leadership, today's reality is a result of yesterday's actions. And the promise of tomorrow is a result of today's actions. And so as a leader, you just can't craft things for the moment. You gotta craft things for the future, right? Because the future is gonna be here, and we should be prepared for it. And I have hopefully I gave everybody a flyer. And on the flyer, it's teaching terrific 2-year-olds. Because things are about the future. So I believe that education should start at 2. Right? That's what I believe. I believe that I want kids on, no matter race, creed, income, the parents' income, to start at the same level. And I know that's ambitious, but I want kids to start at the same level. And so I believe 2 years old is where we need to start at. But also, this is a workforce issue. Because I want parents working, right? And so if you have to spend an exorbitant amount of your income on childcare, right, then you can't work, right? It's not the math doesn't math, right? And so to invest in the teacher for 2-year-olds, what I want is for the state to start subsidizing working parents who are in an educational endeavor. That could be a trade program, that could be 2 years, that could be getting a PhD, right? Because the return on investment is critical. And the return on investment is ROI, return on investment. Individuals who have a college degree versus a high school degree make about $900,000 more over a lifetime. Right? And so if you just take the sales tax of 7% times 900,000, you get 63,000, right? And so this person who's in this program is going to make 900,000, is going to pay in sales tax about $63,000 over their lifetime. Well, daycare for 2-year-olds is about $11,000 a year, right? So if it's subsidized by the parent for $2,000, right? We have $9,000 for 2, $9,000 for 3, right? That's $18,000. But we've allowed someone to be able to work, to be able to get their degree or a scholastic endeavor, and so they're going to pay us back $63,000. That's an investment. That's a return on investment, right? And so we're going to have ideas like this when we're crafting ideas, because this is helping the current parent who's working and getting their education, and just as important as helping the child, because that's what we want. We want future generations to be educated, because that's how you bring industry here, right? You don't need to bring people in from California and New York, where we have educated individuals here in South Georgia and Valdosta. Next is civility. Boy, I tell you, this is a tough word nowadays, isn't it? All right, it's gonna be civil. At least that's why politicians make it seem like it is. And the pendulum swings, doesn't it? Swings left and it swings right. But we want the pendulum to stop in the middle. Because that's where the census is. That's where most of us are, in the middle. And so we're gonna have to really, as voters, on both sides of the aisle, come to the realization that people who we send to local, state, and federal, when they see a fire, are they gonna go there and pour gasoline on it? Are they gonna go there and pour water on it? That's a fundamental question. And so that's part of being civil, is understanding that we need to build consensus. And so I move on to affordability. Just being a CPA, I know a little bit about money. And a lot of issues that we're having right now, affordability, are due to a number of issues. We need affordable housing, right? We need to have a strategic plan for tariffs. Right? The gentleman here talked about farmers. We have a strategic plan to say, hey, when inflation goes up, is there a trigger that instead of just being only able to use the gate card, you get an income tax credit? I think these are ideas that we need to start pushing forward. But also, going back to a previous point about education. Sometimes, and I've been a part of it as a young individual, right? Sometimes affordability is skill set. Because the more you make, the more you know, the more people pay you. And I learned that myself. The more education I got, the more somebody wanted to pay me. And so challenging our young people, right, to be able to gain a skill set to be able to go into society, right? Because we need to talk to young people. See Rome and brilliant individuals in here, but I like to see more young people in here, right? But we need to reach out to young people. People who are 18 years old, guess what they'll be doing in May, in November, or they'll have the opportunity to do, and that's vote. So we need to be in these schools right now, talking to people, talking to kids, right? Because they need to know these things, and some of that conversation has to be an honest conversation. And I remember telling my mother, I want to be a rapper, Mom. I had never been a CPA in my life. Never. So how can I be something, how can I dream of something I never saw? That's what's going on with a lot of people, with a lot of kids, especially minority children. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is just so that you know, a lot of times, you know, black educated individuals, we go to the mountains, right? But the treasures in the valley. So you gotta go talk to people. You gotta go talk to young people, let them know, hey, you know, I dropped out of high school, right? But you can't drop out of life. Because life is gonna be here, right? And so this is what I did. This is what I want you to do. And I'll hold your hand. I'll challenge you as a young person. Because young people need to be challenged. When you challenge all of them, they need to be challenged. But I'll guide you. I'll walk with you through the process because I wish somebody had done that for me. Right? And so if I want to see change, I gotta be some change on that. Right? If I want the community to be better, right? You gotta invest in the community, go into the community, and talk with the community. And so definitely excited to be here. I know that the road to victory is gonna come through South Georgia.
That's right.
The road to victory is gonna come through South Georgia. We can hang, you know, we can hang in Atlanta. Right? All you want to, but the road to victory goes where you grew up. People who are running are gonna have to do this what I'm doing, this what Oprah's doing, this what the doctor is doing. They can come down here and talk to you. You gotta go hear people. Politics is local. Politics is local. Right? So I plan on being a state official with a local mayor. And that's critical. And so I'll be respectful and I'll let Oprah go. But if you say your question, write your question down. Everybody write your question down. I love to answer them because I think that once we really send the right Democrat up there to the dome, that in 2030 we can take the majority back. But I think people need to see a Democrat govern effectively. That's what they need to see. It's been since Purdue, when he took over, every Republican stood, every former Democrat switched, including Governor Deal and the rest of them switched. So they didn't win the majority back. Right? And so in 2030, that's what 26 is about. It's about vision. We got to first attack in 2026 and lay the groundwork for the majority in 2030. It ain't gonna happen. But people have to see a Democrat in a position of power. Governor, there are 3 positions. Not to do too much talk, but there's 3 positions. There's a governor, there's the lieutenant governor, who is the president of the Georgia Senate.
That's right.
That's what the lieutenant governor is, president of the Georgia Senate. And then you have the Speaker of the House.
Right.
Right. We need 90 more House members to get the speakership. Right. We don't have that. Right. The governorship is a shining object. I hope I'm going to work tirelessly. And I mean tirelessly to make sure we have a Democratic government.
That's right.
Tirelessly. Right. There's still one position. And so the lieutenant governor is something that I plan on not being a radical activist, but someone who's going there with a civil tone with a consensus building agenda that is beneficial for both rural Georgia and urban Georgia.
Right.
And that's the goal. So, I'll get write your questions down. I'd love to come back and answer them. I'll be respectful. And the mic over to Mr. Jones.
I'm just going to call both of folks and go back to the floor. Thank y'all. Let's give both our hands.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Awesome. I'm Othar Thornton, candidate for state school superintendent. So here's morning, I'll tell you who I am, what the state superintendent does, and what I plan on doing. Number one, I'm Othar Thornton from Alberton, Georgia, which is up in northeast Georgia. I'm a native Georgian. My family's been in Georgia since about 1793. So we're deep rooted in Georgia. I attended, graduated from Elwood County High, went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and part of family tradition is military. So I ended up doing, I said I was going to do 4 years, but I ended up doing 21. So I had a great military career. Great career. I had one combat tour in Iraq, and one of the highlights of my career, I served as Director of Human Resources for President Obama, his communication teams, and also President Bush. So I was elected and I served for both of them for a couple of years. After I retired, I was very involved in education as far as I had 2 adult children. One's a professor at Spelman and one's a comptroller for the Navy in New Jersey. So I stayed on as far as school because education is the passport to our future and our kids' future. And I'm gonna get very practical so we can, I understand policy, taking down to the people from DC all the way down to Valdosta in our local school district. So in saying that, I remember I think I was about 2005, I moved from Germany to Maryland. I went to my daughters and sons high school's first PTA meeting. When I walked in the room, there were 7 people, there, 7 parents. The problem with that is there were 2,000 kids in the school. So the post commander, over 30,000 people, been in the military, and he just read my name tag, and they said, what are we gonna do about this? We need more parents involved. He looked at me and said, what are we gonna do about this? I said, sir, I just got here 30 days ago. He asked me a second time. So I became the vice president of PTS. I was voluntold. So what we needed to do, the big thing in school systems, is parental or guardian involvement. So I worked very hard with the school, and we moved from about 20 parents being deeply involved to about 400 over the course of 18 months. That caught the attention of the school superintendent, and he said, I want you to serve on our creating high-performing high schools. So I got on that committee, and what we did was we had about 12 high schools in that district. And each high school had a specific theme. My high school is Homeland Defense. So what we did was we connected with government agencies, tech companies, and the University of Maryland, and we actually created curriculum between the district and the state of Maryland. And if you go to U.S. and World News Report today, those high schools that we designed, we had an engineer high school, international baccalaureate high school, we had a vocational high school, and any kid in the school district could go to any school based upon their interests. And they started the interest around middle school. People, how can we get kids engaged now? They rank in the top 150 schools in the high schools in the nation. So, and those are some of the things in Georgia, some practical things that we can do now. The state school superintendent. The state school superintendent is the chief executive officer of the state. Have oversight over 181 school districts, including the 3 here in Valdosta. Oversight, budget, again, helping what we can, bringing in resources from DC and from the state to the school districts, and also policies. Now, currently in the administration, when we hear about the current administration cutting out the Department of Education, affecting things, some of the biggest things they affected was the Department of Education Civil Rights Division. So what that means is if you have a child in the school system that runs into a problem, say and your school board does not handle it properly, then it comes to the State Board of Education. The superintendent is one of the 16 members of the State Board of Education. You have 14 representatives representing congressional districts, the teacher of the year, and the superintendent. So if there's a policy issue or problem, we will address that issue. Now, in the past, if we did not handle it properly, it would go to the Department of Education, which I personally worked with 3 Department of Education secretaries. Lamar Alexander, he was a Republican. I worked with Arnie Duncan and John King as far as the national level policy. So that being said, it doesn't go to federal anymore. If it's handled down here incorrectly, it's just handled incorrectly because they don't have the folks to handle it at that level anymore. So with that being said, the oversight of the budget, and guess what? Who pays taxes in here? I heard everyone raise your hand if you pay taxes. Okay, good. Last year, the budget for the state of Georgia was $38.7 billion. Guess how much education's budget, a part of it was? $15 billion. And if you look at your property taxes, if you look at your taxes that you pay, a lot of that goes towards the school systems. So we need someone in office that understands that at every level and can help ensure that funds and resources are shared fairly and properly over the system. I can do that from the experiences that I have now. Currently, I am an educator. I work, I do things around the state, special needs kids and workforce development between 9th grade and 21, teaching them interviewing skills, effective listening, and just different skills. I do that a couple of days a month. I've been a professor at Michigan Tech University. I've taught at Athens Technical College as a communications instructor. So I have every level as far as education and the evolution. So that's going to be very important. I was a National Parent Teacher Association president. So I had 50 states working with governors, secretaries of education around the country and U.S. schools around the world on military bases. So I have an extensive background and some great ideas we can bring to Georgia. Now, I tell people, a lot of politicians, I'm a public servant, they get elections and governance mixed up. And on the campaign trail, say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. No, when you step inside that seat, then you got governance, you got to work the wickets and things structural things that have been set in place. And I've been doing the work. Like I was telling someone this morning about mental illness. That's a serious issue in our school system, the increasing violence, attacks on teachers, staffs. That's very important. So about 3 years ago, I worked with the state of Georgia, the Assembly, to get $300 million to invest in mental health issues and matters. So we'll continue to work those type matters. Now, here's what I want to do, and I'll open it for questions. Number one, I want to get the funding formula for Georgia increased. Okay, I broke the legislatures to do that, but our funding formula, everybody if you work in here, imagine getting a job and you've been in it since 1985 and you haven't gotten a pay raise. Would that work for you? Okay, that's the education formula in Georgia. They set it up in 1985, and there were some faults in that system, and we still operating in that formula. So last year when I was dealing with the governor and the state legislature, and we were able to get $200 million more, and they sort of falsely said, hey, we are fully funding the schools. No, you're not. You're operating on 85 formula. We need more than $200 million. And I said to the governor and the legislators, I said, we can find $1 billion to give to a corporation to come here. We can find $500 million to help make sure our schools are together. So that's number one, updating the formula. The second thing is literacy. In Georgia right now, 1 out of 3 of our children are reading on a proficient level. 1 out of 3. That's not acceptable. Okay, I sent Mississippi here this morning saying, look, Mississippi, they made major increases in their literacy over the last couple of years. You can look around and see best practices to make things happen. One of the advantages I have as a past National PTA president, every summer in July, I sit down to be a judge for schools of excellence. So I see the best practices, and those are some of the things I can share with the superintendents and school systems to make things happen. For folks in rural counties, to give you an example, several years ago in Georgia, we had an issue with broadband. Kids, had an opportunity to get Wi-Fi and different things like that. One state I went in, the rural school district, they got a bus, they wired it up to provide Wi-Fi, and they would drive the bus into that community after hours, and then the kids in that neighborhood will have Wi-Fi in the rural area. So there's so many great ideas that we can incorporate. And last thing, I'll stop, be respectful, parent accountability, parent and guardian accountability. I'm actually working with Representative Holly, Georgia Federation of Teachers, who has endorsed me already for the race. We got a bill, we're working through a system called Parent Accountability for Student Success. With an increase in violence and things, we're saying if a kid is disruptive in a 25 to 30 person class, the teacher has done everything she could do to help this child, but that child attacks a teacher or an administrator, the parent or the guardian has to come to school by law. Not for punitive, but hey, we got a counselor here, we got a problem. Let's handle this problem right now, and if they blow it off, I think the next level is, okay, you're ready to be charged with this community service. So we're working through that bill now with legal, but we got to get the parents back involved and engaged in the school. I'm going to stop right now. The last thing I'm going to say, and open it for questions. It takes funds to run campaigns. So please, I ask that you donate. Everyone has a card, has a QR code, or we take checks. But in order to get our message out, and what usually happens, corporations and wealthy people, they have the money to finance messaging, but they have no real intentions. I'm a retired colonel, and I tell people I'm not for sale. I am what you see and what I say, and I keep my word. So let's do this. Okay, I'll stop. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
All right, so the floor is open for questions for either Richard or for Olta at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm a current educator, right here in the city, and teacher retention is a huge deal across the nation,
Yes, ma'am.
especially here in our rural areas.
Yes, ma'am.
What, do you have a plan that you're ready to push out to support teachers, to motivate students to go into teaching,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
to stay there because it's really been rough?
Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. Now, teachers, like I said, the school system is usually foundations for community. If you have a poor school system, business is not going to come to your school system. I mean, come to your town. So that being said, some things that I have proposed and talked to superintendents and local leaders about is providing like tax incentives for teachers for first-time home buying programs. Okay, they currently have a bill right now, and it might have passed, I think, Governor Kim have to sign it into law. They ask for teachers to get a $10,000 raise over a 4-year period. Okay, so $2,500 a year for 4 years. Now, that's an election year. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to happen. So homeownership, that's a very important thing because it provides that stability and initial wealth building for teachers. So I think that's one thing. Second thing is we talk about proper raises, proper salary. And the third thing goes back to, they passed a law in Georgia like 3 years ago called, what is it? Divisive Concepts law. So basically, they sort of limited telling teachers what you can and cannot teach. Okay, there are standards that everyone should have, and the curriculum is determined by the Board of Education. But it was a problem with, we don't really teach slavery or just crossover, different things in history. But in order to understand history, you must understand all sides. So those are some of the things. Let teachers have their classroom back. So some teachers are really concerned about, well, can I teach this? Can I teach? No. Teachers should be, let me back up. My personal philosophy on education is, and Benjamin May said it best, the purpose of education is first to build character, second to earn a living, and third to serve humanity. That's what we should be teaching our kids to do. You know, I heard yes, ma'am.
Is Wood running?
Yes, he is reluctantly.
I want you to know that my granddaughter, who is in fifth grade in Palm County, is just tested for her reading. She's at 12.4. And they're doing a great job in one school out of 3 elementary schools. And I'd love to see those other 2 other ones come on too.
From what I understand, the Republicans are forcing him to run because they don't want a MAGA person to take his place. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how are you going to ensure that South Florida, with, you're speaking about internet access, making sure that, lobbying effectively for broadband internet access, high-speed internet throughout South Florida, because that's still a disparity with us in comparison to the rest of the country.
Well, first, as a state school superintendent in a constitutional office and then a platform, those are some of the things I could address. And actually now, as we speak, I actually work with superintendents in rural areas around Georgia to bring in additional resources. For example, who's heard of the Bud McCall grant here in the room? Okay. The Bud McCall grant is a funded program in Georgia where if you have a special needs child with a IEP or 504 in the state of Georgia will give them a $17,000 grant for 4 years after they graduate. That's a grant, not a loan. So if you have a special needs child, they have, in the University of Georgia, Georgia State, and some other universities actually have programs for them to go to school. So, yes, ma'am. Working with the superintendent, there's 181. I have a great relationship with the executive director of the Georgia's State School Superintendents Association. So I'm able to get information and share it and get resources to school districts accordingly. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Instead of paying attention to a lot of the good ideas that you have articulated today, the Georgia legislature in recent years has been attacking transgender people and passing bills that do that. How will you work to protect those young people and expand the protections for them in the Georgia school?
So, sir, the way I would answer that question is, we have 1.8 million students. When a student enters a public school door, that doesn't matter. What matters to me is that we take care of them, and that we provide the resources for them to be successful. But I do understand that they're attacking kids across the board: African American kids, Asian kids, Hispanic kids, and I've done things that have tried to block some of the things they tried to do. But sir, like I say, every child that enters that door, I want them to be treated with dignity and respect. Because they're human beings first. You're all human beings first. That's my take on that, sir. Any other? Yes, sir.
It's a two-part question. I understand that would you be willing to increase the funding salary to match the needs
Georgia. Okay, sir. So here's something everyone keeps in mind. When people talk about taxes, okay, with taxes, they're trying to take away the property tax now. Now, let's say most school systems rely on that. Now, let's talk from every level. Most of your education funding comes 80% from your community, okay? 20% comes from the state and federal level. So what's going on right now, and I'm actually in a big battle right now with these vouchers. 3 years ago, they passed a thing called the Georgia Promise Scholarship Act. When they passed it, the messaging was, we want to help special needs children out, so let's pass this bill. They passed the bill, that was a Trojan horse. And then the next year, Lieutenant Governor Jones came and said, we want to open it to any student that was at a failing school for $6,500. That is a trick to drain money, it's a scam, out of the public school system. And we have to fund the public school system. And we're right now fighting, trying to get a referendum on the ballot in November so that the people can vote on it and tell them, we don't want you taking money out of our schools. I'm going to have to stop. Public schools, that's correct. So I'm going to turn over to Mr. Rivers. Thank you all. I'll be here to answer any questions. And sir, thank you for your question. I'll answer the additional after this.
Can we just applaud all of our candidates for being here with us today? And while we're applauding, can we applaud our local Democratic Party to be here? This is going to go there. And thank you, candidates, for being here. To my buddy, my friend, my brother, Jay Jones, for bringing this event to us. Can we give it for just really excited about the momentum that we feel that is building here in Lowndes County. Thankful for all. I serve as the Congressional District Chair of CD8 for the Democratic Party of Georgia. And I also serve as Senator Warnock's Outreach Director here in South Georgia, so really excited to be here. Very thankful for all the other chairs that were able to come and fellowship and be a part of this day, so thank you. And thank Big Nick again. Can we give it up for Big Nick? For the wonderful food and just opening his doors for us. So a couple things that will happen. You get an opportunity to go to the tables and speak to any of our candidates. Do us a favor and just thank them again for coming and being a part, coming to our community. And get information. You can get with your local party to get any information regarding local elections and when election days are. And I would encourage you to get involved in your local party. Very important, all right? If we're going to build capacity and momentum, we need bodies. So I'm asking that you be a part, you join and be a part of the work that they're doing. And again, thank you so much for being here, taking out time for your Saturday. And listen, these are going to continue. So we're going to have more. If you don't follow the Lowndes County Democratic Party page, do me a favor, go and follow the page. Join their mailing list because all information will come through the local party. Appreciate you. Hope you guys have an amazing day. And we thank you for being here.
This is the Getto Free Press. I'm George Buster Rhymes. I'm in Valdosta, Lowndes County, Georgia. Down here, the Democratic Party held this meeting on behalf of the voters and candidates. And I am here because I want you all to know the rest of the story. And I see Brooks County was well represented here today, and I want to commend them. I also want to thank one elected official that I recognize, and that's Vivian Cody from the City Council in Valdosta. I want to commend her because people talk sometimes, but when you look around, you will see Vivian Cody there, and that's what it's all about, representing the people. And if I'm overlooking anyone, I'm sorry, and peace be unto you, and I love you all. Once again, the Getto Free Press, George Buster Ryan, we report what others ignore. By Bible gone, power to the people, pass it on, and don't wait so long to get it on. My YouTube channel is Boston G.B.R. I'm also on Facebook. Check it out. Bye-bye.